Everyone, Phil coming at you with a new Weiss Schwarz profile. This was a video that I said I would do a while ago. I just didn't get around to doing it until now. We are taking a look at my Tohka Yatogami waifu deck profile for Date Alive. This list does not require any of the new promos that have come out since I did the Kotori Origami and Kurumi deck profiles, which you guys can check up here on the channel. So if you just have the Bunko stuff, the main set stuff, and the trial decks, you should be perfectly fine. This list is going to be a bit weird because there are 3 Climax combos, but Tohka doesn't actually have access to the best finishes. If you do like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up and consider subbing to the channel as well. It really does help. I'm trying to reach 400 by the end of the year. Now it's out of the way, let's jump into the profile and hopefully you guys do enjoy it. Just to start things off, we have 3 copies of Tohka Springtime Moment. When the battle opponent of this becomes reversed, we can choose one of our other characters with Date or Spirit, rest it, move it into an empty slot in our back row. When she becomes reversed, we have the bottom decker. So this is a really good card to play, especially if you're going second and you need to attack with one of your back row cards like your Brainstormer or your Mysterious Girl. Use it to do some damage, and as long as this reverses something, you can put that in the back row. It actually gives you extra advantage on your next turn. Yes, you may take a bit of extra damage from having an open slot, but you do lose one less card in hand as you do have a card in back row you can push forward on the next turn. Next up, we have 3 copies of Tohka Pouting. When it's placed from hand to stage, check the top card of your deck. If it's a character, you can put it underneath as a marker, and she gets plus 2k for each marker underneath her. Just a bit of a 4k beat stick. 3 copies of Tohka in the City. So basically the same card as Miku from Idolmaster Cinderella Girls. When she's placed from hand to stage, you get your Climax and you can salvage a Date or Spirit character from your waiting room. And then when she attacks, if her damage is cancelled, you can send her to stock. 3 copies of Tohka Confrontation with Spirits, and the same as another card from Idolmaster. When she's placed from hand to stage, check top card of your deck. If it's a Date or Spirit character, you can add it to hand and then ditch one. Then you can discard a Spirit character from your hand to draw a card. You can choose whatever order you want to do those effects in, and you can do them both in the same turn. Next up, we have 3 copies of our only card from the Bunko set, which is also from the Bunko trial deck. So that is Tohka Mysterious Girl. She gives 500 power in front, and when we play a Climax, we can pump one of our characters by 1000 power. Can really help out level 1 Tohkas because they do need to reverse in order to get the Climax combo off. So it's nice to have access to give them as much power as we can. We have 3 copies of our Brainstormer Tohka Void Sword. So pay 1, rest 2, mill 4. For every Climax, we can search for a Date or Spirit character. And then when we play at start Climax phase, we can bounce her to our hand to pump one of our characters 1000 power until the end of our opponent's turn. So very useful effect, again, to be able to pump up our grade 1s to make sure they're able to reverse. Speaking of that grade 1, we have 4 copies of Tohka Important Promise. If we have 2 or more other Date or Spirit characters, she gets plus 2k cross turn. And Climax Combo at the start of Encore phase, if the character across from her is either reversed or the slot is empty, we get to look up to the top 5 cards of our deck and add a Date or Spirit character from those to our hand. Now what's interesting about this is, of course, it does activate if our opponent leaves that slot empty, or if it gets removed in some way, or if we're reversed. So it's not too much of a negative for our opponent, just rams everything into her on their turn, as we are going to be able to use these effects even if there is nothing in front of her, which makes her probably one of the good on reverse combos because she doesn't have to reverse. She just has to attack. The problem, I do believe, is the Kotori is better in terms of if you're mixing, because the Kotori just has to attack and can add 2 cards to hand potentially, so for each one. So it's a little bit better, but this does mill your deck, which can be pretty useful. 3 copies of our second level 1 Climax combo. Yes, we do play 2. This is Tohka Cruel Reality. When she's placed from hand to stage, we get to draw 1, ditch 1. Climax combo with our Standby Climax. When the Force of Anger is placed into the Climax zone, you may pay the cost. We choose 1 Tohka Advent of Disaster in our hand and put it on the slot this was in. So we basically get to swap this out for a 2-1. We do lose 2 cards in hand doing this because we are losing the Climax and we are losing the character. But we do get to get a character back with the standby, and then of course the combo will allow us to stand that character, so we can get some nice advantage. If you don't want to run the standby combo, feel free not to. I just feel it's a little bit better because our grade 3 Climax combo is a little bit underwhelming because we can only do it like once per turn, so it's nice to have a backup Climax just in case, so we can have some great level 2 beat sticks. 2 copies of Tohka Date Feeling. So she cannot be reversed by cost 0s, and when another one of our Date or Spirit characters attacks, she gets plus 1k until the end of the turn. 2 copies of our level 1/0 counter, Tohka Knights or God, just 102k counter. Level 2, we have 3 copies of Tohka Advent of Disaster. So if we have 2 or more other Date or Spirit characters, she gets plus 1k power. Climax Combo at the beginning of our attack phase, if the Force of Anger is in our Climax zone, and this is in the front row, we may choose another of our Date or Spirit characters and stand it. So essentially, we play the level 1, we play the Climax Combo, we swap the level 1 into our waiting room, put this out. The standby then triggers and we can bring out but assuming we would bring out a level 2 character, and then with this on the field, we can just stand that grade 2 already. So nice advantage there, especially because this can all happen at grade 1. Speaking of our key standby targets, first one we have is 1 copy of Tohka Under the Blue Sky. For each of our other Date or Spirit characters, this character gains 1,000 power, and then when the battle of this opponent becomes reversed, we get to look at the top 2 cards of our deck and put them back in any order. So a very nice effect. We do get some more advantage and utility off this. You can, if you're really searching for that massive beat stick, you can run the Bunko 2-1 as well. You could probably swap it out for the Box Topper PR, which I'm running instead. At the end of the day, whatever grade 2 Tohkas you want to run, it's up to you, but you do want to run a decent number of them just so you have good standby targets. We're also running the Box Topper promo Tohka, which I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But when it's placed from hand to stage, you have to give one of our opponent's characters in the front row 1,000 power. And then when another one of our Date or Spirit characters attacks, she gets plus 1,000 power until the end of the turn. Now, obviously, giving the 1,000 power can be a little bit annoying, but if you are standbying this out, you don't have to do that. And it does get pretty big pretty quickly, so the 1,000 power isn't too much of an issue. 1 copy of the 2-1 counter, which is Battle to Protect. It's just a 2-1, 3-5 counter. Moving on to our grade 3s. First off, we have 3 copies of Tohka Dignified Appearance. If we have 4 or more Date or Spirit characters, she gets -1 level in hand. When she's placed from hand to stage, you get to heal 1. And when the turn she's played, she gets plus 2k power. So she's just basically on play a 10-5 healer that can come out at level 2. Other than that, not really something we want to rely on a lot. I mean, it does heal, so that's probably the main reason you're going to use it. Isn't a finisher, but it does take up one of the double R slots. Moving on, we have our first finisher, and yes, we only run 2 copies of this, and I'll explain why in a minute. So this is Tohka Innocent Girl. For each of our other Date or Spirit characters, she gets plus 500 power. When she's placed from hand to stage, we get to heal 1. Climax Combo, pay 3, ditch 2, and sack the Climax Delicious Date. When the battle opponent of her becomes reversed, we get to pay the cost, which is that. If so, we get to pick 3 cards from our opponent's waiting room, put them on the top of their deck, and we in any order, and then we deal 5 damage to our opponent. Now, this is a pretty devastating combo if you can pull it off. It is costly because you're going to pay 3, ditch 2, and sack a Climax. And the worst part about this is you can only do it once per turn because you have to sack the Climax, which is why we only run 2 of it. Again, you could bump this up to 3 if you want, just for consistency. I think 2 is perfectly fine. For a finisher, it's strong, but it's got nothing on Kurumi or Origami that are able to just do their combos, crazy burn combos, just like for all you need is the Climax. You don't have to pay any cost unless you're playing the combo-less, Climax-less level 3 Kurumi. It's a good card, but you're definitely not going to rely on it too much. In the sense of you'd probably be playing it once, and then you'd be playing your other grade 3s in addition to that. Speaking of which, we have our other grade 3. We have 2 copies of Tohka Confrontation with Humans. When she's placed from hand to stage, she gets plus 4/5 power until the end of the opponent's turn, and neither player can use backups in her battle until your next turn. And when the battle opponent of her becomes reversed, you can pay 2 and deal 1 damage to your opponent. It's not the most reliable finisher, but hey, at least you can do it more than once per turn, and she's pretty big, sitting at 14/5, going to be able to beat over a lot of stuff, unless they've got like bodyguards or anything like that, but we do have those other cards that we can use to pump her up. So, and not being able to, your opponent not being able to use backups is always very, very handy when you're playing a grade 3 like that. Climaxes, starting off, we have 4 copies of In the Town, Dried with the Setting Sun, which is our book Climax. So when it's triggered, we get to draw a card. Climax Combo with Tohka Important Promise. We have 2 copies of The Force of Anger, which is our standby Climax. which we combo with our secondary Climax combo. Again, you could easily bump this up to 4 and just play 4 of each, or you could cut this completely and just play 4 of the other Climax for our grade 3, but I think this is probably one of the better ratios you can play. Tohka's in this weird situation where her combos are good, but they're not amazing. So I like playing all 3, but that's completely down to your own personal preference. And then finally, we have 2 copies of the Delicious Diet, which is the Pants Climax. When we trigger, it gets to salvage a Climax. And it is the Climax combo with our level 3 Tohka Innocent Girl. Well, that is it, everyone. The Tohka waifu deck profile. Obviously, the list would probably change a lot depending on how you want to play the deck. Playing 3 Climax combos is quite greedy, especially in a waifu deck. But I think the Tohka deck does work pretty well. In terms of power level, it definitely sits probably below Origami, because whilst Origami doesn't have a Climax combo that's able to search her deck out, or she doesn't have a super consistent way to actually get the cards of the characters that she needs, she does have a very devastating finisher, and she does have a stock charge combo, so she can compress, she can build some hand, and she can have a very devastating finisher that can actually dig for other copies of itself or its Climax. Tohka, while she can search her characters, can't super consistently get her own Climaxes, and her level 3s are just kind of underwhelming. So at this point, the ranking of the waifu deck says Kurumi at the top, followed by Origami, then I would say Tohka, probably then followed by Kotori. Kotori is able to mill her deck like crazy, but with no Brainstormer, she can't search her characters. She does have to rely on hitting them off her Climax combos and her level 0 mills. Her grade 3s don't heal. They do, and else their finishes can be used multiple times in a turn, unlike Tohka. The fact that they don't heal and the fact that they're a little lackluster as well, despite there being 3 grade 3s for Kotori, definitely puts her as the 4th strongest deck on the list. We have one more waifu deck that we can take a look at with Yoshino, which arguably I will say right now is the weakest of the 5 waifu decks. If you do want to see that profile, let me know in the comments below, and I'll definitely do that one for you guys. If you did enjoy this, remember to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. It really does help a lot. Like I said, I'm trying to reach 400 by the end of the year. If you want to see more Data Live stuff, I do have a video where I cracked open a box, a pretty epic box, especially looking at the price of some of the cards in the set now, as well as deck profiles, like I said, for Origami, Kotori, and Kurumi, and you can see the work in progress profiles we did as well when the cards were getting revealed, so you can see like the transition of the decks. But that's it for this video. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you for the next one.